foot-cooled mattress topper that's Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going, everyone? How's the levels? My voice good? Can you hear me? Music too loud? So, this is... Hey, Druid. Hey, Faro. Hey. Hello, everyone. So, this is part 4 of Pixels with Pen. And it's been fun so far. The first week we designed a bunch of characters, which ultimately led to picking this chicken dude. And the next week we did the idle and run. So we made this little tiny idle, cute, and then we made the run. And last week we did the attack, which is a pretty cool 3 swing combo. I was having issues with my throat. I was just starting to get sick, and I am just starting to feel better now. My throat is still like phlegmy, a lot of mucus, but yeah, it's been fun. So this week we are tackling jump, fall, and slides. Kind of sliding on the ground, which can also be sliding on a wall. It's basically the same thing. So let's get to it. So let's bring up, where's the concept? So basically, this right here will be the slide, and this will be the jump, basically. So we'll just need to replicate those keyframes, which is fairly straightforward. We will just grab this idle frame, we'll copy it, bring it to the end here, and we can break down the whole process, kind of my workflow. I'm gonna be making the keyframes, so I'm gonna make the keyframes for all of them, maybe, or maybe just one, so we go through the process multiple times. We'll make the keyframe. That's the first step. So that's just maneuvering each layer so it looks like sliding or jumping. And then it's basically just turning that into 4 frames. And those 4 frames will just have subtle movements in things that would flap in the movement from the wind. Des, yo, what's up? Hey, thanks for joining. So it's basically keyframe, 4 frames, and then secondary motion, because most of the body stays as is. So let's do the slide here. So the slide, we had this kind of cool concept. So let's try to mimic that. I'm gonna this. Put it over here. Oh. So I'm gonna mimic this. As says, how do you manage so many frames? Layers, all about layers. And if you want to make it better, even more organized, you can color code it, you can make groups. But yeah, everything is basically on everything that I want to animate is on a different frame. I forgot to hold on. I'll make a. Forgot to say on socials. Let me just post quick. And then we'll get started posting on Twitter. Pixels with Ben Part 4 is live right now. So yeah, if you're following along, I'll try to keep it slow. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I leave these up so you can always rewatch them if you need. Just gonna quickly get these posts out. Then we'll jump right into it. One down. Vez says, even with all the colors and layers, there's just so many. Yeah, it's really hard, especially if you're looking at someone else's work. For me, it's not so intimidating, but when I look at others' work and I see all these, it's kind of like, okay, let's try to understand this. And all the colors mean these blue ones were keyframes for the attack, just to show the viewers, and these colors, the green were when on the idol when the head was at its highest point, the orange was at the highest point, green was mid, and blue was low. So it was just kind of a visual. I don't always use colors, but it was more so for the viewers. And then the run was just, I guess I didn't really use colors. But yeah. One more post on Instagram. And then we'll get started. Part 4. Okay. Twitter and Instagram. As says, I find it difficult to find the exact frame. One thing you can do is if you hold control and use the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out and see. This will make it easier, as you can see like the frames in each piece. And you can make it really big if you want, but that's kind of just confusing. Drew said, made my first animation yesterday. Little Reaper guy swinging a scythe. Your videos were helpful. I've always liked inspecting your Aseprite files and your uploads on itch. Sweet. I was just watching part 2 and it's credible, a lot to learn. I had to stop by and take advantage of being live and say hi. Well, thank you for stopping in and thanks for the kind words. It means a lot. And your English seems great. Okay, let's get started. Let's tackle the keyframe. Just like in part 2 and 3, we start off with the keyframe. So we're gonna mimic this here. So first, we're gonna rotate the gun. And I'm just gonna go edit, rotate, and I put it the wrong way, but I will just flip it. So there's a bunch of ways you can rotate. You can go to edit and you can just flip it. You can also use Shift V, flip it horizontally, and then Shift H. I mean, H would be horizontally, and V for vertical. And that's just holding Shift, pressing V or H. And we're gonna tilt it a bit. So we're just gonna go on this corner. And the reason why I rotate it 90 degrees at once right away is because if you rotate it, say, just manually like this, sometimes it gets a little wonky. So I just do 90 first and make sure I'm in that range I want it to, and then go from there. So we know we want the gun low, and we're gonna delete this this flattened frame down here. It's just the shadow down here. We're just gonna delete it because we don't really need it. I'm gonna turn off the background so we can see the onion skin. And we're gonna bring the gun lower. So I'm using the V tool and just clicking on the sections I want to move. And you can see by the blue line. Or bring the bag down low, I think. And I'm gonna delete the flappy thing, because we don't necessarily need that. And then we're gonna go to bring the feet out, and then the body's somewhere in there. This, I think, might be this. We're gonna bring the body like so. We're gonna chop off the bottom, and we won't chop it off. We're just gonna bring it over here and kind of sometimes just use these pieces so you kind of keep some kind of consistency. Some is going to be behind the gun and everything. So the body will kind of make it more round, make it make more sense. And then this foot here, I'm gonna go V, and you can see over here we made it flat. So let's just make it flat this way, and then we can do this, and then we can slide it right there. Maybe one more out. Maybe make foot like this. And then the other foot we brought it down. Let's we had it more like that. That looks okay. We can go like that. And then we're just gonna make sure it's attached and looks decent. The gobbler, let's bring that back up over there. We won't worry about the position of the gobbler too much right now. The head, we're gonna trim up this a bit. And this little area looks a bit sharp, so let's fix that up. And maybe so it doesn't look as good as this one, so let's try to shift some things around. Maybe bring that foot in. Finally, delete all this. And that looks a bit better. I kind of like that the gun was lower in the original. Oh, I've been working on the head. Let's not work on the head. Let's keep the head consistent. Make sure you're drawing on the right layers. Dude, I'm always working on the wrong layer. Yeah, it's so hard. I used to just like accept it when I do, but now I always make sure I correct it just because it's easier in the long run. How's that look? Let's see with the background. This might be too far here. Bring in that a bit. See if we can make this body come out. I think we can shift the head, looking more down perhaps. You see how his eyes kind of down on that one? Let's kind of try to mimic that. That looks a little better. Sure, we're on the body layer again. And then I'm gonna take the flappy thing from the run. I'm basically gonna just copy this whole thing. So I think this is a good enough keyframe. Maybe we'll try tilting it a bit. Clean up this body. Let's see how the gun looks. Let's see how if we rotate it back. Oops. Because that would be cool for shooting. Thing is, if this was in-game, this sprite would be separated in most games, so you could aim it. So it would be cooler, but I kind of want to showcase the feet. So it's kind of, unless you did like that. I don't know, what do we think, chat? Do we want it up, the original position, or backwards? Backwards might look too weird if it was rigged up in engine. I think when it's like this, it kind of hides everything. Let's rotate it back upwards. That is pretty cool. But yeah, okay, so keyframe settle, we can always change that later on. So what I'm gonna do is make 3 frames, 3 additional frames. And we're gonna make a new tag, called it slide. Now we have our slide. And if you were short on time, you could just copy this flappy thing. So in the run, in part 2, we used this flappy thing. It was basically just 4 frames repeated twice for the run animation. So we're just going to take those 4 frames. So if you're following along and you want to see that, go back to part 2 and kind of skip towards that part. And this whole series is kind of like my method, the quickest kind of method. And if I was doing it, I would just copy paste those 4 frames because it's doing exactly what we want. For this type of movement, would it be interesting to have some effect, maybe dust particles or something like that? Yes. So there's a few ways you can do dust particles. You can use particles in engine, which looks great. I like it personally. I would probably do that. Or you can do a separate particle, which we're going to do. We can do that right now on this VFX layer, and we're just gonna get maybe a couple shades gray that's like a bit darker than these ones. But yeah, so you can use your particles in engine and kind of just spawn that like at his feet or at the end here, or you can make a separate VFX, which would just be like a single piece, and it would just be like we'll just do it right now. So say it's starting to spawn here, a couple pixels, go to the next frame, do a couple more, and then here it kind of splits off. Third frame splits off, and I'm gonna actually go back to the first frame, so this is just kind of repeating. What am I doing? Like so, and then we'll make sure this one is so. That was a super quick example, and you could have this on the sprite, but it probably won't look as good. So it would be best to separate these VFX and kind of spawn like a single particle. So this would actually be longer in sense. So it would be, if this was the first frame, second frame, third frame of these two splitting up, and then fourth frame of these two still splitting up, and then the fifth frame would be these two dots, sixth frame these, 7 frame, and then if you want an 8. So right now on this demonstration, we're kind of just looping it in together. But if you were to export the slide VFX, it would be better to make this 8 frames and not have these particles on the same. But for this looping effect, we could just do it like that. And we can do kind of something similar over here. Oops. So now you can tell it's like sliding, but there's no movement in the gobbler. There won't be much movement in the body itself, but the secondary things like his flappy bandana thing, his gobbler, and then the VFX, those all have animation. What canvas size do you usually use? I usually start on a 192 by 192. Pretty much I always start there, and then I kind of just, if I need more space, if it's like a background, make more space. If I need less, or if I don't need as much, I will scale it down. So basically, like, that's kind of how you tackle it. I think to make this complete, it would just be doing the cobbler. And that's basically just maybe we'll make that the keyframe. We're going to link it and unlink it. So that's basically just copy and pasting. So it's now this new one, and we can just kind of move these. So we're just going to quickly move it. 4 frames is all we have. So we're just going to quickly move it back and forth. And we can adjust small little frames. So let's go through this. Maybe try this one up here. I might make it all one color. And try to I don't like the bottom pixels. So let's so that looks pretty cool. It looks like he's sliding. Some other cool little visuals you can do. Lines, and I'm just doing on a separate VFX layer. Like so. That just gives it, I don't know if I would use that in game. Maybe some type of games would. We can kind of shift them a bit lower. See how that looks. That just kind of gives the illusion, making lines like that kind of gives the illusion of sliding fast. I don't know if I would use it in game. I'd probably use a mix of particles in engine and then these particles, maybe. Oberdan, I'm new to pixel art, but already do art. Been using Procreate to do pixel art. I've never personally used Procreate. It looks cool, and I'd like to try it. But from my understanding, it's not a pixel art program. It can do it, but with custom brushes. So yeah, Aseprite's just tailored to pixel art. So like everything, all its updates are like just making they're geared towards making pixel art easier, and it's just enjoyable. Aseprite, you're gonna transition to Aseprite, but it's cool to learn different programs regardless. So this would be a solid pass in a game engine. Something you can do to add a little bit more is the body. we can move the body a bit. Basically just random movement in pixels. So what I did there was just basically delete random pixels. So there was 4 pixels here I picked on his leg up here. And the first frame I removed this one, second frame I removed 3 actually. Do that. Let's keep it 2. And then move these 2. You're basically just that looks worse. But then when you're further away, say if you're playing a game and resolution is this far or the camera view is this far, it just gives a little bit more I don't know, motion to it. Definitely not needed, but something you can do. And we can do it with the inner side as well. So what we can do is just put one there. It's gonna be on the leg actually, so there. Here. One back there. So now it looks like the wind's like very powerful. It's blowing its chicken feathers, fur feathers around. And I don't think moving the gun would look very good. I think a stiff, like he's got a stiff hold on it. We can try, but I don't think it would look good. Maybe, but that's kind of up to you if you want to move the gun 1 frame while he's sliding. I kind of like it stiff. Again, in engine, that gun's probably going to be on a separate sprite, and it's going to be aiming towards your mouse cursor. But I'm pretty happy with the slide. And we're not going to do it today, but probably won't do it. But if you wanted it on a wall, you could just rotate like this and then adjust the gun and the head basically. And say if you were doing a wall climb and you want to slide down, basically do that. So it's the same thing, but just kind of rotated and shift some parts to make it look better, like the head and the gun probably. Okay, so now we're gonna tackle the jump. And the jump, it's gonna be the exact same process. We're gonna make a keyframe, make 4 frames, and then add some VFX. Or no, maybe we'll try some VFX for the kind of takeoff. But we'll do a kind of anticipation to take off for the jump. Maybe it's just a couple frames, and then a fall as well, and potentially a land. All pretty straightforward and easy. But I think the basics of what you need is just the fall and the jump. You don't necessarily need the land and the takeoff. That's just like added code, and you could always do that. I see a lot of people doing in engine of just like tweening the sprite, making it kind of like when it hits the ground, it kind of widens a bit. So say if this is the ground, hits the ground and the sprite widens a bit, which is easier than like making the sprite land itself. But yeah, okay, let's do this. So I'm gonna grab the idle frame again, new tag. We're gonna make this jump, And this is jump for using in-game. This isn't like a jump animation for a movie. Because a jump animation for a movie, you would basically be... It would just be like a... Oops, really small. If you were gonna do it for a movie, it would basically just be actual jumping. Say if this is each frame and you land in a different spot. We're not gonna do that. Because if you're a programmer and you're using this for an in-game thing, you're just gonna make the jump stationary in one spot like the slide. So like the slide, you can just control this in engine, how far you want it. You have so much more options with customizing it, where if you were to animate a slide, if you were to animate it 5 or say like 50 pixels in length, that's your only option. You couldn't customize the slide in the engine, and it would just be more work in the end. So this is why you kind of just do a stationary spot where there's just movement in the secondary motion. But let's go. Let's do this. So we're gonna move the head up a bit. I'm gonna bring the gobbler with it, and we're gonna move the gobbler like we did there. Kind of just so. Move back to the head. And I like what we did here. Head subtle. A movement. Maybe like that. Bring up the body. The bag. And then fill in the body a bit more here. The gun, this is going to be kind of in the middle. So let's see if we can make it look okay. Low rows. Bullet Bunny is a POG game. So I think we can work with this one. Let's kind of just clean it up. Get rid of these kind of funky things that came about when we turned it. But I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna trim some of this because he was kind of looked a bit more badass in the original kind of one. We can move the feet and the other foot. It actually looks like a Bullet Bunny char. Will it get added, or is this just random? Yeah, it was just random. I was just making character designs, and this was what was chosen by the viewers. So it is kind of random. I probably won't add it just because the hitboxes and everything will change. And that's something I don't want to tackle with the game engine. Just because all the heroes are roughly the same size. And this guy would be bigger. Maybe. But and it's also a chicken. So it would kind of be like. Okay. Then why doesn't this guy look as cool? Something to do with his head. This area here. I think it's because this looks like a big old chest coming out. Maybe the beak more pointed. Maybe we're getting close. Let's see. Let's try to picture it. Going from idle, starts to run, slides. Let's move. Let's adjust. So we're roughly in this cell right here, and the slide is a little bit too far forward. So let's move all back. Not that it really matters, but running, slide, slide, jump, jump. It looks okay. I think I like this one better. Oh, I don't know now. I don't know. Yeah, it looks close enough. Oh, maybe it's the flappy thing that's kind of like making me not like it as much. So let's go ahead. Let's do this. So let's add the flappy thing, and we're just gonna steal it again. But we are gonna rotate it. And then flip it. And then move it. And then we're gonna try to make it more visible. Perfect. Flip it horizontally. One more cell over. And then let's adjust the bag a bit. See if we can make some. So there's 2 frames without it. So let's maybe move those frames. We do see some. Maybe just a little bit of it. Doesn't look too bad. So again, like the slide, got the floppy thing to the gobbler. Seems smaller than the previous one. It's this, if you're talking about this one over here, that one was really long, and we kind of, with everything, we kind of shortened it down just because it's easier to animate. We didn't do it for the attack, apparently. But yeah, just basically decided it was easier to animate with it being shorter. So let's do the gobbler. And we're just going to kind of whip this from side to side. And see how it looks. That looks pretty good. And that was basically just moving it to the left and then moving it to the right. So we can do some movement in the body like this one. I think it adds quite a bit. We'll do it kind of right here-ish. So all this will be moving, so kind of more on its head. And with the jump and fall, you could do particles and stuff, but it's kind of like on the takeoff and land. You wouldn't do particles like if it's when it's the player's in the air. So just on that takeoff and that land. So we're on the head. Let's go ahead and delete that. Maybe delete this one on the body. Well, comes back. Maybe delete it again. Add to there. Pretty much everything else is going to be stiff. Maybe the bag, but again, that will be like the gun where like I personally don't like it, but I could see why people would like it. Kind of like shakiness. I say we add a little bit to the leg. Oh, kind of the leg feathers. Oh, we did a big one there. Where's that big one? We might not have enough space to do something cool right here. But let's see. We'll see what we can do. We'll mess with combinations. That one just looks too blinky. Constantly blinking. Yeah, I'm not sure how not really feeling it. But so that's again, this is a pass. So let's do the fall. We'll quickly do the fall, and then perhaps we do the transition. So again, repeating this process of doing the keyframe. So let's do the fall. And I think just like leading the flappy thing. Maybe a little tiny tilt in the gun. The gobbler is kind of like wrapping around the beak then. Eyes are low. It looks a lot thicker right now. Perhaps we make the beak point downwards. Tilt the gun. Let's see one more. Nah. I like to jump between. Kind of like the jump. Slide looks good. I'm very happy with the slide. Jump is good too. So that looks good. Like you can kind of picture it jumping up and falling. Jam Wolf. Hello. Will the stream be saved? Yes, they will be saved. You can see the part 1, 2, and 3. They're up right now, and this is part 4. Okay, let's do the same thing with the fall now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we will steal the flappy thing and the slide, paste them on the fall. We will move them. And we will rotate them. Never get to rotate. Wait. Move it a bit more to the left, I think. Looks good. And we'll just shift this. Make it connect a bit more. Beauty. Again, it's about saving time, so like reusing those flappy things saves us a lot of time. Gobblers are kind of doing slightly different things, so we'll just go with the flow with the gobbler. Little movement on top, and then little movement down there. Maybe not. Undo that. Kind of like it just like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Jumping, falling, sliding. Goes island, sees something, starts running. Doesn't attack. Slides to get away. Jumps. Falls. Sweet. So much mucus in my throat. So let's add some body movement because I kind of like that. See where we did it on the jump, kind of in his throat area. Again, we'll mess around with combinations with this. I'm not liking it as much as fall though. These ones had kind of a good area, you know, the slide had its like the belly and the leg there. That was big enough where we had enough kind of variations. The jump had this section over here. But the fall doesn't have the best kind of area so far. Like this one should feel good, this side. Maybe if we make it more. Okay, let's do that. And we will link them and then unlink them. And let's mess around with that. That has more potential. That looks better. For a beginner, do you think it's better to start straight away making 16 by 16 pixel art, or is it better to start smaller? Smaller is actually, it's kind of challenging. Like you have so little to work with. I actually think like 16, you should probably start in that 16 by 16 to 24 by 24 range. Because 32 by 32 you get, it's a little bigger, so it's harder to animate. But yeah, like even 16 by 16, sometimes to get a really unique character with a smooth animation, it's pretty difficult. And that's like, I think it's like an underrated thing when you see pixel artists like animating with those small low resolutions and they look smooth. It's a tricky thing. So I think in that range 16 to 24 is the best to start with, and that's kind of where I started around. So our goal was to do the slide jump fall, which we did. So the stream's going pretty good. And I think it would be cool to add kind of a land. So for lands, I usually grab one of the run frames, and it makes most sense to grab the one where he looks like he's landing. So we're gonna copy this one, bring it over here, and we're gonna do a new tag called land. Basically, we're gonna get rid of that leg, I think. And then we want the end position to be the idle. So you already have two keyframes where you have this landing position, and then it's gonna go to this idle. So there's not much more work to do, really. We can duplicate this land frame and kind of make him the squash and stretch technique in pixel art. And then we're also going to duplicate this N one and kind of do frame where it's kind of settling into place. So now let's just kind of go through it slowly. Let's play them all. So there's not much oomph with that land. So let's work on that. We might not even need this one. We can go straight to kind of the big old land. And we'll do one going up, and then his head will kind of come back down. So he lands. Maybe the bag bounces up too. And it kind of lands. This, you would never do a land this long in game, but we're kind of just having fun. So let's see how that looks. Looks cool. Adding to the character. So it lands. And then it bounces up, kind of settles down. Maybe the bounce isn't too good. This one can be where he starts to come up. Then he's up. It's kind of cute. Let's do some VFX. We don't need this design anymore. Let's remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rectangle tool and kind of highlight this area. And I'm going to use contour tool, kind of make this quick little VFX for landing. And the contour tool, if you're not familiar with it, just when you draw something, it fills in your start and end point. So I just made a quick little bursting thing right here. I'm going to turn on onion skin so I can see it. And I'm just going to kind of make these kind of separate slowly. And fade out. So yeah, that looks with the one side. Looks pretty good. Looks like he's landing and farting. That's exactly what we want. Let's watch them all. So we can add it to the other side. You could copy and mirror it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do something different so it's just looks a little bit different. The reason why I use the rectangle tool is just so I don't go below this. This is just like a platformer type character. A door just slammed upstairs and no one's home. Perhaps the wind. I gotta tell myself it's the wind, and I'm not gonna go check it. All right, let's check all of this. Looks pretty good. So as you can see, once you get in the groove of the slide, jump, fall, and even the land, if you're following this order, how I do it with we did the design, then the idle, run, attack. Once you start doing these other animations like slide, jump, fall, you're stealing a lot from yourself. Like we took the idle frames, the start of the run frame, we took the flappy thing. We're kind of stealing all that, so you can get in a good rhythm, and you'll just get used to that stuff over time. Being like, oh yeah, I can take that. A thief or a killer would not have slammed the door, so you're good. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm telling myself. I think I opened a window, so wind is scary sometimes. But yeah, and you can get in a good groove with doing these, especially if you do them all at once. You know, you're doing your keyframe, and then you're doing those secondary motions in VFX, and then you're basically done. And you can start to bang them out. Perhaps the most difficult part is the beginning, where we don't have anything ready yet. Yeah, it's basically keyframes are so important. Small woman living in my cabinets may have slammed a door by accident. That'd be funny. But yeah, keyframes, super important. It's like, if you have those keyframes, you're so far along, because it's making those keyframes look appealing to the eye. I know when I started animating, I would just like, I wouldn't go from keyframe to keyframe, and keyframe to keyframe it's called pose to pose animation, and I would do straight ahead animation, which some people are really good at. And I use that for secondary things like the flappy thing, the gobbler, and VFX. That's all straight ahead animation, which is just the next frame in line. But pose to pose animation is my favorite for this type of thing. Like especially attacks. You're just like, you have your keyframe and you need to figure out how to get to that other keyframe. And if both of those keyframes look good, your animation is probably going to look pretty good. But if you have a wonky keyframe where it's just not, you know, aesthetically pleasing, your animation is probably not going to be aesthetically pleasing. But yeah. So again, we did we got through everything fairly quick, so I'm probably gonna end the stream. I would keep going with other things, but like last week, my throat is just full of mucus, and you probably noticed I'm struggling to breathe pretty much. But yeah. If anyone was following along and wants to show the slide and stuff in the Discord, I'll look at those and then I'll end the stream. So I'll post a Discord link for those that aren't in it yet. But if you are, you can throw it up and I can take a look at it. If not, I will see everyone next week. Thank you for stopping in. Couple of new faces joined, so I'll wait a sec. Ethan says thanks, great session as usual. Thanks for stopping in again, Ethan. Toby. How's it going, Toby? We're actually done. We're done. We just had to tackle some slides and jumps today. And next week we'll finish off the character. The fucking armed chicken battler, dude. Also, it was cool. I don't know if anyone knows Sea Dog Connor, streamer on Twitch. Streamed a bunch of games, and he streamed Bullet Bunny, and they loved it. Him and his viewers. And they were he was rating a bunch of games, and the viewers and himself were debating S and A tier. So it was cool to see a big streamer like him, who has millions of followers, love the game and almost give it S tier. I think they gave it top of A tier, but just being in the conversation for S tier is pretty cool. Ethan, is there a chance to support Bullet Bunny on Mac? I was actually messing around. Toby, Man right above you, was actually helping me with that. But we kind of stalled on that. So potentially. Did you see a wishlist sales bump? I did. It was small though because he was basically playing games for 10-15 minutes. So that 10-15 minutes got me like 20 sales, which is cool. So I'm sure if he were to play it, you know, for hours, you would see a pretty significant bump. But it's cool to see a big streamer, because no big streamers covered Bullet Bunny, really enjoy it, and the chat was loving it. They were loving all the dogs. So it was cool. It was cool to see that because, you know, I've never had like a big streamer cover it. Usually small ones where chat's, you know, 10-15. But yeah, I'll check the. I don't think anyone sent anything in the Discord. So with that, if you do plan to send something in the Discord, I can still cover it later, just through text. But for now, let's call it an end. I'll see everyone in Pixels with Pen next week, and hopefully my throat and everything is better because that's been 2 weeks in a row. So thank you for everyone for joining, and I'll see you next week.